There's not much left if you if you keep that out. I would say a very curious person. So I think if you remove the athlete side from me, that I would read a lot of books and be on the internet all day and do stuff like that.
Yeah, there we go. So I'd say you're pretty Dutch. You're 8 out of 10 on the Dutch level. So fair play to you on that one.
Do I want to keep doing this, or do I want to do something else?
What allowed you to move forward and go on to get a performance which did give you forward momentum? What held you back from stopping at that time?
Yes, we're going to say that there was a time where I had a really good time at Mario Kart on the Rainbow Road. I was not the best of the world, but I did had a really good time. So
so how high up in the world rankings of Mario Kart were you?
Yeah, I think like in the top 50 of the world, and that made in Hamburg I really competed for podium spots, and that was that's a step I did not thought I would be able to make at this point in time, but I truly really enjoyed the race itself. Hamburg will be my number one spot at the moment. My father has cancer, and it's not. He cannot be treated, and he can be treated, but he will never recover. So it's spread in the lungs, and we don't know how long it will be going to keep going like this. Mm-hmm. Now of course I have the confidence that I can be an elite and that I also can fight for podium spots. So that change, of course, changes things.
Yeah, we're back with episode 2 of season 2 with the amazing, and I'm going to try again, Hidde Weersma. We got on the podcast today. Is that okay? Is that a pass?
I give it a 7 out of 10. So you passed well, but there are slight improvements, but I'm happy.
So listen, where I start every single conversation with all athletes that we speak with is this one question. And I think this question tells a lot about people. So let's start with it. So if you were to remove the athlete from yourself, how would you describe yourself in the shortest way possible? Who are you outside of sport?
Oh, there's not much left if you if you keep that out. I would say a very curious person. So I think if you remove the athlete side from me, that I would read a lot of books and be on the internet all day and do stuff like that. I hope that's a little bit the answer you were looking for.
Yeah, no, that's totally cool. We can go one layer deeper and go back to, you were born in a town just outside of Rotterdam. I'm not going to say the name, but I know it begins with S and ends in an E. Maybe you can help us with the pronunciation. Sprekenisse? Is that right?
Sprekenisse.
Sprekenisse, there we go. I love how you guys say vodka as well. You say vodka, and that makes me laugh a lot. So thank you for that. And I know I've got a silly accent. But yes, so you grew up in that town, 2 sisters, mom and dad. On paper, all sounds pretty perfect. How was growing up on the outskirts of Rotterdam? How did the day-to-day look like? What sort of kid were you? Were you confident? Were you shy? Were you in shape? Were you out of shape? How were your parents? There's just sort of give us a bit of a flavor for how growing up was.
That's also a good question. Yeah, I'm the middle, so I have a big sister and a little sister. So that therefore I was in an interesting position because my big sister was physically almost as strong as me, but my little sister, of course, was like the sweet child in the family. So I had to pick my place carefully, but. And of course, when you're younger with your siblings, you do have some fights. But in the end, we had a really good bond. And especially in actually the last few years, we became really tight. And also with my parents, I'm really tight. So in that regard, everything was always, a happy family. And that was all going well. And at school, I was quite an easy learner, so I was quite bored a little bit, to be honest. Right. And what also was the case, what's quite interesting, was that my best friend moved away to another town when I was 11. We only had 4 other guys in our classroom. And I got along with them, but I they weren't really my friends. So actually, for a few years there, I didn't have that much friends. So I did play soccer with other guys, but I also enjoyed doing stuff on my own. So that's
Yeah.
already something that is an important part of me, that I like to spend time alone and have my plan and my flexibility, and don't and in like social situations, especially when I don't know that many people, then it can get a little bit awkward.
Gotcha.
Not if we talk about stuff like HYROX, for instance, then I feel
Yeah.
totally at place.
Safety zone.
But I think that's a big part of how I operate now. But at the same time, I did really enjoy sports, but I also ate quite a lot. So there were a couple of years where I was a little bit chubby, but I could
Right.
still run pretty decent. So
Yeah.
and then when I came in high school, there my big sister brought me to the triathlon club, and I really enjoyed that because first I was doing football, but I I didn't really enjoy that, to be honest. So then my sister brought me to that club, and what I really enjoyed was that you were doing different stuff, of course, every day. So you had the swimming and the bike and the running, and then after 3 days you could switch it up again. So I really enjoyed doing different stuff, and that's also the moment where I got more interested in like exercise physiology and but how do I train the best? So how do I make the best with the amount of hours I have? So the curious side of me started to operate also over there, and that's, I think, how I very shortly said how it was for me in the younger years and how I started then with my triathlon career, to call it that way.
Do you think there's any correlation between like how things worked out with your friend moving away and then you falling in towards like individual pursuit sports rather than team sports? Do you think there's any correlation there? Because you said you tried soccer, you didn't love it, but like everything you seem to have excelled at after that, it's kind of been you versus you. Do you think there's any credence in that, or it's just sort of how things panned out?
Um, I think maybe because my sisters also did more individual sports, so maybe it's also a little bit a family thing.
Right.
But I think for sure that played a big part, that my friend moved away, and that and again, I get along with the people in my class, but they weren't like, I wasn't really tight with them. So then I started to isolate myself a little bit. So I think that's a big that played a big role in it. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then obviously you went on to like compete within triathlons of varying distances, and you went pretty hard at that for a few years. Like at what point for you did you kind of feel like, as a professional athlete, I'm not going to get there? Obviously, you're 25 now, are you?
I'm 27.
27 now. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're 27 now, and let's say, are like, I'm going to benchmark that question actually, so we'll leave that off the table. But was there a point like in that athletic journey where you thought, I'm going to be a high level sort of amateur athlete, and that's the best that I've got? And how surprising was it for you whenever HYROX came around, and now that you're at the top of the sport?
Well, I was like a pretty decent triathlete, so I also did compete at like Dutch championships and stuff like that. Not that the level in the Netherlands is really high with triathlon, but still I competed at national level, but I really wasn't a podium contender. And I also didn't really at one moment in time had the idea that I was ever going to be a podium contender or that I was going to be a professional triathlete. But I just really liked to train for it and to become a better athlete. And it started a little bit when I started with triathlon when I was quite young.
Yeah.
It's not a sport that a lot of young people do. So then I ended up in the podium sometimes in my age group, and that of course was really fun. And that's also a factor where you think like, okay, maybe if I do a little bit more, I can experience more podium places. So the competitive side definitely was important, but at the same time, I knew like I'm never gonna be like a pro triathlete. So the main reason I did it just was because I enjoyed training and becoming better. And to be honest, I also um, combined it already pretty early when I was 17 with strength training. And also that was I just messed around. So in 1 year when I was 18, I weighed like 100 kilograms in the winter and 80 in the summer. And,
Wow.
and I was just benching all winter and then started running and cycling again. But then after a while, I was also curious, like, hey, but how do elite athletes combine strength and endurance training? So then I was also more curious about that. So I think I have like a very natural way of just enjoying sports and just messing around, and then also becoming interested in, okay, but how can you do it more optimal? And that had like a really natural way. And I never had like the switch moment. It's just something that progressed over the years.
Awesome. Awesome. That sort of hero's journey, which is brilliant. So the beginning of the podcast, I really just try and set the scene. So another important detail I think people need to understand about you before we start getting into the weeds on things is like, obviously you're balancing being a very high level S&C coach. Now you're a high level athlete, and I'm sure you've got other things going on in your life as well. What does the average week look like for you? And I don't mean training wise. I mean, like, what does Monday to Friday look like? Balancing workday and maybe relationships and socially. Like, how does it look? Just the average week.
Uh, Good question. No, but I think what maybe is the easiest is that on average, I have 2 training sessions a day, and I don't talk about my own training sessions, but those I do for the Dutch Olympic team, and those take around 1.5 hours. So that is work related, and then I have on average 1 meeting a day. So that's like 4 hours of work, and those are actually all my obligatory stuff where I really have a time or a place to be.
And you've got to be there,
Yeah, and then I have around 3 to 4 hours a day where I just need to do administration or programming or other stuff. Um, so that is my work, but I can do all that stuff. I'm really flexible in how and when I do it. So I also keep on working on the weekends. I actually also work 6 days a week. So therefore I can spread it out a little bit more, but also on the Sunday, the day that I don't have to work in terms of training sessions or meetings, I still work just to make sure that I have enough time during the week to do all my training sessions. And then, on average, I train around 3 hours a day. And usually those are cut in 2 different sessions. But I also because for instance, on the Thursday, I start pretty late with work, only at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That is my first session. So then in that morning is often a longer bike ride for me. So that's also a little bit how I try to structure my week. But I'm really lucky that I have like my meetings and my training sessions for work, but in between I'm really flexible. So also when I have 2 training sessions for work on a day, but I have 2 hours in between, then you can eat a banana and put on a different shirt and you can train for 1.5 hours. So so that really helps.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then downtime, how does that look? Do you have any? And what do you do with it?
To be honest, not that much. Usually I arrive at home somewhere between 10 and 11 in the evening, and then actually and I enjoy the time. I put in some music and I just clean up everything I used the day, and I'm packing up my stuff for the day after. And that's already a little bit of downtime, and then I think I watch like a YouTube video for half an hour and then I go to sleep. So but to be honest, I do have to be fair, because pretty often on a work day, I do have a power nap in the middle of the day of around 20 minutes. So, those are necessary for me.
They're necessary. And how do you relieve the stress? How do you relieve the stress? Are you a drinker? Are you a meditator? Are you a go for a walk type of person, or training doubles up within that? But how do you relieve stress in your life? Because it is busy and it's full.
Yeah, so actually, not all, but a few training sessions are actually already a part of that. So I really enjoy running in the forest or running over the beach. I'm really lucky that my work is pretty close to both of those. So when I do a long, easy run, I actually come back, uh, like not in terms of your legs are, of course, a little bit
Yeah.
tired, but my mental state is actually better than it was before. And
Yeah.
also, I do quite a lot of training sessions on the bike, and
Mhm.
I really enjoy those as well. And then just I have some music in or a podcast in. Walking outside is a big one for sure. My power naps are, of course, a big part of it. And when I have some time, then just laying in bed and reading the news or scrolling around a little bit. Those are my go-to stuff to get a little bit of rest.
Gotcha. And do you have like a significant other or a big social circle, or you're quite a sort of you're on your sort of own hero's journey right now? Like, how does that all look for you?
I'm on my own journey at the moment.
Okay,
No significant other. I also never had that in my life, so I don't know
wow,
how it is.
that's a fun fact.
But I do from the people who have. They tell me like, if you want to keep on training, don't go for it. Keep doing your own stuff. Um, and to be honest, because with this life, the amount of social time is really, really limited. So
Yeah.
like my true group of friends, I only see them like a couple of times a year, so maybe once every 3 months.
Wow.
But at the same time, I do see my family a little bit more, and that's of course also really important.
Yeah.
Um, and I do, of course, also do a lot of training sessions with people who are like also friends, and they are maybe not the people who I would still meet if I wouldn't compete in HYROX.
Yeah.
But I still really enjoy training with them, and I really count them as my friends. And to be the last one is actually at work, where I do have my training sessions in. That also is, of course, a place where I talk with
Socialize.
people and I socialize. So um,
Yeah,
my
gotcha.
social life is very limited, but at the same time, I'm definitely not somebody who doesn't see a lot of people. I'm actually really, I see a lot of people and I talk a lot with people and we share a lot of stories. So
Yeah.
I'm also okay in that sense. Yeah.
My rugby coach once said to me, he said, Ryan, you'd be an incredible rugby player, but you found women too early. That's your problem. So I think I think you're going the right direction.
Still
And I'm
haven't found them.
and I'm sure if you keep winning, you're not going to have any problems with that. Sure, girls are making songs about guys in HYROX and all sorts of things now. I don't think you're going to have any issues down the road. Okay, shall we jump into some hard hitting questions?
Go for it.
Okay, cool. So this one's a bit of a lubricator, a bit of a social lubricator to get things moving. I want to know how Dutch you are, and I'm going to scale you 1 through 10. How well you know your country, just to warm things up. All right, cool. Um, true or false? Real rapid fire questions. The Netherlands would be completely uninhabitable without its dikes, pumps, and polders. True or false?
Um, you said completely, right?
It would be completely uninhabitable. Yes,
Then it
100%.
is false.
It's false. That's right. About 30% of the Netherlands is below sea level. So there you go. Many people, yes, many people understand. Okay, cool. Dutch language. Frisian is the official language in the Netherlands and is spoken by more people than Dutch in some regions. True or false?
True.
False. Dutch is spoken in all regions, whereas Frisian is only spoken in some regions.
Oh yeah, but I thought. Oh, sorry. Then I misunderstood the question.
It was a trick question because, yes, more often than not, I think regions speak that language, but in every region they have the ability to speak Dutch, I think was the trick on that question.
Okay. Yeah. Then I.
So we got you. Okay, you're 1 for 2. 1 for 2. Cheese consumption. Dutch people eat more cheese per capita than any other country in the world. True or false?
Ooh, false.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, 2 from 3. Tulips. The Netherlands produces more tulips than any other country, but most of them are exported, not for domestic use. True or false?
Gonna say true.
Yep, you're 4 from 5, I think now. That's great. Bikes and infrastructure. The Netherlands has more bicycles than people, but in Amsterdam, more people own more cars than bikes. Amsterdam has more cars than bikes, is what the question is really. True or false?
False.
That's true. We are 5 from 6. I'd say you're pretty Dutch so far. Traditional Dutch windmills were mainly used for generating electricity. True or false?
False.
That is 7 from 8. That is correct. They were used for pumping water, sawing wood, and milling grain for people out there. Okay, cool. You can legally grow cannabis at home for personal use in the Netherlands. True or false?
True.
Only up to 5 plants are legal. It's actually false. It is not illegal, but it's not legal, but tolerated to produce within the Netherlands. Can you name the law for a bonus point? The loophole in the law begins with G.
No, I wouldn't be able to.
Yes, me neither. Cool. So we are now 7 from 8, I think. No, we're missing.
No, I had to the Frisian language and the cannabis.
6 from 8. Yeah. Okay. So question 9. Stroopwafels are originally a Dutch invention. True or false? See, I've really thought these questions through.
Yeah, this is a guess. I'm gonna guess true.
Yes, correct. Okay, so we are now, what were we on? So we're too short, and we're
7 out of 9. I think.
Thanks for keeping me sharp. I've had a busy day too. Football myth: Netherlands has never won a FIFA World Cup, but has finished second more times than any other country.
Ooh, I'm gonna say true.
Yeah, there we go. So I'd say you're pretty Dutch. You're 8 out of 10 on the Dutch level. So fair play to you on that one.
That's good enough for me. 8 out of 10.
Cool. All right. This is where we switch a little bit. So our podcast last week didn't go to plan. That made me think about a question around that. Do you remember a time in your life or sport where things really weren't going to plan and you had to dig deep to turn things around? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Is this still a short answer or?
No, these ones spend as much time as you.
Okay. Because when I started with HYROX, it first started also as enjoyment, but after I won the age group in Nice, that was in 2024 at the World Championships, there I really made the decision like, okay, if you want to go for the elite level, then I think this is the moment and we should really fight for our chance to compete in those races. And actually when I tried to do that at the end of 2024, I did a couple of races in the hope I would set a time where I could compete in the majors again. And that was a moment where my performances decreased and the pro times were like 1 hour 1 minute and 1 hour 2 minutes, and I really had a moment where I had doubt in everything, a lot also in myself, and I coach myself. So should I find a coach, or do I even want to do this? I can also just go on with work and become the best SNC coach I could be. And that was a moment where for a couple of weeks I really had doubt about everything, to be honest.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more, because a lot of people often on these podcasts see people that are now doing well. But like, what had you sacrificed in your life at that point? What did those performances back then mean to you? Like, you obviously sacrificed a lot. It costs a lot to go to all of these races. You're putting a huge time commitment. Like, how much did you have to change your life to go for it not quite to work out? How did that time period look for you? Like, economically, how difficult was it to go through that?
Well, I did already train a lot, so it was not that I changed a lot, like in my weekly structure, and also in terms of financially, I had to pay for the races before as well.
Yeah.
So that was all pretty, set, and it didn't change that much. But I just started training more, and and just like where I said, like, okay, I only see my friends a couple of times a year there. I saw them a little bit more, still not often, but a little bit more. But I just, said like, okay, no, I need to train tomorrow, so I'm not going to go anywhere. So I think it was just that I had like a couple of % of, short-term decisions where you didn't choose for the enjoyment, but you went for the sport. but I think I actually overdid it a little bit in that period of time, and therefore the enjoyment got away. But also because I overdid it, the performances were not there. And then, of course, you come in a situation where you start to think, yeah, is this all? Do I want to keep doing this, or do I want to do something else?
What allowed you to move forward and go on to get a performance which did give you forward momentum? What held you back from stopping at that time?
Yeah, so what I first had a lot of doubt, but then I said to myself, like, no, we're not gonna try it for a couple of months and then just quit. So but I do really need to change some stuff. And actually, to get my confidence back up, I started just with a few double races with a few friends.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed those, but I actually also picked my friends very with strategic, because I first started with and they're all really fit people, but not like elite level fit.
Yeah.
So I started with the least fit friend, and then I just had a fun double with him, and then I did it with another friend who's a little bit more fit, and then I had fun with him, and then with another friend who is really fit, and then we set a really good time. That was even, I think, like in the top 10 times ever, because the HYROX Pro was just founded at the Pro Doubles was just founded at the time.
Yeah.
So I used that to get an enjoyment back in racing, but also get my confidence up. Yeah, brick by brick.
Yeah.
And that was that worked really well. So I can advise everybody to pick your double partners very carefully and try to do the same structure as I did.
I feel sorry for the first guy, for your first tier of fitness.
Yeah, I never told him.
He must have been getting dragged around that course. Poor guy.
No, but because with the first there, we also really said, no, it's just for enjoyment. So in the run, we were just talking with each other. But then in these stations where I had to do my part, there I went as fast as possible.
Yeah.
But during the race itself, it was a lot of fun. And I didn't like drag him around and started screaming that he was going too slow. So it was a really fun race.
That's cool. Okay, question 3, slightly different angle. Outside of sport, what's one thing that our audience would never know you're good at?
Ooh, really good question. I don't have that much, to be honest. I think most people know that I'm now also a pretty good SNC coach. So I am maybe going to say that there was a time where I had a really good time at Mario Kart on the Rainbow Road. I was not the best of the world, but I did had a really good time. So
okay, so how high up in the world rankings of Mario Kart were you?
Yeah, well, I think like in the top 50 of the world, and that maybe for me that's not that special, but for like Mario Kart, that's really good. So
really, how many people play it globally? Like
I
roughly
think millions, to be honest. But I also
wow.
That was the one I enjoyed the most. So I also did it like thousands of times. So after a while, I could almost do it blindfolded the whole route. So
wow.
I was pretty good.
That's the right answer. There you go. So that's great. Okay, cool. Now, being a high level coach, I was a coach for part of my career myself, and a competitive athlete in Ironman. But do you ever get frustrated at yourself for knowing you're not following advice that you would give to athletes? Do you find an internal battle on what you know you should do versus what it is you do?
For sure. And to be honest, I also over the years I got better and better in taking my own advice seriously. But I think a lot of coaches who also compete still, when an athlete of mine apps me and he says like, or he or she says like, oh, I have a cold and I don't feel really well, then okay, we're gonna not train for 2 days and then we're gonna see if we pick it up. And when I have a cold myself, then I think I can go for a half-hour run. And but that already improved. And the thing I struggle with the most is going to bed on time. But yeah, to every athlete, I would say sleep is essential and you should get your sleep. But that's also, part of the daily structure I have. Sometimes I just want to relax 15 minutes more, and then the most rational thing would be like, you relax the most if you go to sleep. But
yes,
you have that internal battle the whole time that you think like, oh no, one more video or one more this, one more that. So that's something I still really struggle with.
Okay, interesting. Okay, cool. So, question number 6. This question is more about satisfaction, something we all seek as athletes. Like for you, let's keep this one HYROX specific. I'm sure you've got lots of great moments across sport, but I think I probably know the answer to this question. But like, what were the moments that you felt satisfied so far in your HYROX career? Where you crossed the finish line, you went, I feel proud of what I've just done.
Actually, quite a lot of races, to be honest. I had it the first time with my first HYROX because that was the first event in the Netherlands and you could find nothing about it. So what type of shoes to wear, all that kind of stuff, there was nothing.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty tough race because beforehand I was like, oh, but I do triathlon and I'm really fit and I have endurance. But then when I did the burpee broad jumps for the first time, I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to do this again. But that moment gave me a lot of satisfaction. And I think another one that stood out for me is again the age group world championships in Nice. Because I'm 3 times age group world champion, but in Nice is the only one where I was the fastest age grouper of the whole day. So that was for me, it was a really good race. It was my second time under the hour. It's not a very fast course. Also, with my time, I was pretty decent in the elite rankings for the race, and that's of course an elite race is always a little bit different, so it's hard to compare. But still, I did compare. So and because that was the first time I really thought like, okay, with a few extra percentages, I can really compete with the elite. So that gave me a lot of satisfaction, but also a lot of how do you say, the competitive sides that like, okay, let's do this. And now of course the race in Hamburg. Because in Chicago, I also actually was really happy about the race, but in Hamburg, I really competed for podium spots, and that was that's a step I did not thought I would be able to make at this point in time. But I truly really enjoyed the race itself. So the outcome of course is fantastic, but also within the race itself, I had so much joy in really feeling that you are part of the race and not just filling the field up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That I think if I'm talking like this, then Hamburg will be my number one spot at the moment.
So yeah, just from an outsider and a fan's point of view, Hamburg looked to be just like almost the perfect day for you all around. Obviously not perfect in the sense that you didn't win it, but getting your qualifying spot, first step of the season, you had your family there. It looked like an immensely sort of emotional day for you guys all in. Can you share a little bit about like what that wider sort of who was there, the experience? How was the evening after? I'm sure it just brought the family really close together for that moment, and you got to celebrate something positive. Share what you're comfortable with about the sort of more personal level of why that meant something to you.
Yeah, sure. So, I think most people who saw the interview maybe after already know it a little bit, but my father has cancer and it's not, he cannot be treated. And he can be treated, but he will never recover. So it's spread in the lungs and we don't know how long it will be going to keep going like this. But now he still has energy to do a little bit of walking, a little bit of cycling, and to make a trip to Hamburg.
Wow.
And we got that news. The news that he has cancer. He had that 1.5 years ago. And then in December he had his treatments, and actually they said like, no, he's clean again. So that was of course a really big relief. But then at the first checkup, it was back, and then he had surgery to remove it. But actually at the first check after the surgery, and that was in April, there the news came out like, sorry, it has spread to the lungs and we cannot do anything anymore. So yeah, that was a really big blow in the whole family. As what I said, we're really tight with each other.
Yeah.
And therefore he also couldn't go to Chicago. But my parents are the type of people that come almost to every race, and not because we asked them. Like also with my sisters, when they did rowing or triathlon, they went looking to them, and not because we asked them, but purely because they enjoyed to do it.
Of course.
And yeah, so therefore that they could not be in Chicago, that was really logical. So that's all. But yeah, it was difficult for me because they were there at every race, and then the race where I really was going to be an elite, because I competed at the World Champions Elite. I did do the major in Stockholm before, but that was also with the roll down position. So I was really proud and happy to be there, but I didn't really feel like an elite athlete. And in Chicago, I would make that step. And yeah, they watched it by the live stream, but they could not be there. But then after Chicago, when we heard the news that the first major of the season was going to be in Hamburg, then it became so clear for me that I wanted to train so hard, because that might be the only opportunity left for me to see me live in an elite race. I actually took no off season. Immediately after Chicago, I started training with the race in Hamburg in mind. And it's also pretty funny because we were also talking about it with the family. Like, it's pretty weird that you would say like, oh, but me running in a hall in Hamburg and doing burpees, that's important for the family. So it's really weird that you give it so much value, but at the same time it does, because he was also the one that traveled with me to the first age group world championships, to Las Vegas and to other races. So for us, HYROX is not only a race for me to be competitive and passionate about, but it's also a way where we travel to different places and we experienced the travel and the races. So HYROX became a mean in our family to come closer together.
So cool.
And therefore the race in Hamburg was again really important, and that I could show that this is the level that I have now, and that they can be a part of that. That was really important, and that we are now able to collect moments like that in the last moments of his life. Yeah, that's very valuable to us.
That's such a beautiful story, and I'm sorry you guys are going through that. I've been through it myself in life, and I know it's not easy. But life is a collection of moments, and the more moments you guys can have, the better, you know. And it's amazing that sport is bringing that together for you, which is wonderful. So thank you for sharing that. It's certainly not easy to talk about it, even more so publicly. But do you think that was a bit of a life source or an energy source for you in that race at all? Did you even think about it, or are you quite like narrow-minded? I'm just racing right now.
Yeah, and it feels a little bit dirty to say that it gives you energy, but it really does. So that's the honest truth. And also even in training sessions before, when I was late with work and I had to do a session at 10 p.m. in the evening, then this was something I started to think about. Like, that day in Hamburg, you want to show what you're worth, and you also, because my parents helped me a lot, in not even with HYROX, but also with triathlon, like, we can help you to buy a bike, and we can also give you a little bit of help with traveling to certain places. And they also took away some stress from me at home, to maybe even cook some meals sometimes. So there are like numerous of ways in which they help me. And I also want to show that you that the chance they give me that I will handle that with care.
Yes.
So I think that's also a big factor. So when times get tough, then I want to show them like, no, I handle it with care, and I'm giving it my best.
Man, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for that answer. I really appreciate it. And it certainly made me feel something as someone that went through that as a young man. And it's not easy. But I certainly use it as an energy source to this day. Sometimes default, but we can talk about that offline. Okay, cool. So what do we got? Okay, this one is, I think you'll like this question. So I also am fascinated in like sports research, sports science, methodologies, sort of key figures, which have helped drive all the behaviors and training methodologies within sport. I want to get your take on a few of the key ones, and see what you like about their training or their methodologies, and what you probably cast away and you don't utilize within some of the top Olympic athletes in the world. So starting from a more strength base, Louis Simmons, what have you learned from him? What do you like? What do you not like? Are you familiar with Louis?
To be honest, not. So I now start to doubt my own knowledge.
Awesome. So I'll give you a little bit of a rundown. So Louis Simmons was the founder of Westside Barbell. He was the number one like sort of powerlifting coach in the world. He had a crazy methodology, training 7 days a week, all sorts of crazy overload training. But that's Louis Simmons. We can forget about him. Are you familiar with Mark Rippleto?
Yeah, I definitely seen a lot of videos because I also really like the way he talks.
Yeah.
so
Cool. So, do you, from his like training strength methodologies, are you familiar with any of those? Do you utilize any of that within your own coaching?
Well, sometimes I know, especially I didn't read a lot about his programming, but I did see a lot of like how do you execute different movements.
Yeah.
And what I sometimes struggle with him is that he says like, this is how you do a squat, and this is how, and to give an example, when I'm training, because one of the teams I train is the beach volleyball.
Yeah.
And there are of course people who are really tall, and therefore a barbell back squat can become a really weird exercise, or even an awkward exercise. So I think it's really important that you look at an athlete not only like, oh, we have this exercise and we need to execute it this way, but you also have to look like, how do we make it appropriate for this person? So that's something, that I find really important.
Yeah, awesome. What do you think about Poliquin? Obviously, the I guess the founder of the 10x10 German volume training. That was really best known for, but within the strength community, I think relatively well known. Do you know much about his work? What do you like?
Yeah, so I and that's really fun because that's the thing I tried when I told you that I was like 100 kilograms in the winter, and so it's something, of course, that it's you use it really well in terms of becoming stronger, and especially also hypertrophy. But it's really funny in the sense that I don't use that at all with any of my athletes, because I'm a big believer in that you should use like the minimal effective dose.
Okay.
And I think that's actually really low. So I actually try to limit the volume in strength training as much as possible, because I think like if you do a lot of volume, that's of course takes away energy from their main sessions. And in terms of if you're a cyclist or a beach volleyball player or a speed skater, your main sessions are not in the gym. Your main sessions are on the bike or in the sand or on the ice. And I don't like to take too much away from that. I think some SNC like SNC and in terms of strength training can have a lot of benefits, but you shouldn't like start to think that you hold the golden egg and that what you are doing is the most important thing. And that's sometimes difficult because as a strength trainer, you're really passionate about strength training. But I think a good coach is also able to let that go and say like, no, this is enough, which is then a minimal dose. And the energy we're gonna use on the bike, in the sand or on the ice, etc.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, it's so interesting. So when you think about the minimum effective dose, like from a strength training perspective, some coaches talk about like it's more greasing the groove, like you're going to about 70%, like at an absolute maximal, and you're stopping before exhaustion, and you're just doing it more often. Are you more in that line with that way of thinking?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I'm adapting my own training methodology more to that myself at the moment. Okay, cool. Just gonna rattle through a few of these guys. Do you know Arthur Lydiard? For me, he's my north star in endurance training. He was the guy that sort of pioneered base training, really wide base training, like suggesting like an 85 loaded split on aerobic base training, and
Yeah.
everything else
So
sits on top of it.
the person I read about more in that regard is Steven Seiler. So I think they are quite comparable, maybe in that
Yep.
sense. I don't know if you agree with that.
I haven't came across Stephen's work, but Arthur Lydiard, he was just a triathlete a
Mm.
famous Olympic triathlete that I'd read a lot of his work. But so he's saying essentially the same thing, which is like a huge portion of your training should be aerobic base, and a very little portion should be at sort of CP, phosphate, max power. And the rest is split up within that sort of 10% of total volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually interesting because that was the way I trained a lot a year ago, where it didn't went well, and
Yeah.
I started doing way more threshold kind of stuff. Um, and I think in terms of for HYROX, that's really important because the volume of a HYROX race is so much that if you start training polarized, then you cannot handle that volume when you're in a race and need to do everything at a high intensity. So therefore, I did step away from it for HYROX coaching, but
Yeah.
for other endurance sports, I would still use it a lot. The only thing I also have a problem with, but there's a nuance in my opinion, is that is how the elite athletes should train. And in terms of that, I mean the athletes that are training 20, 25, maybe even 30 hours a week.
Yep.
And once you are a very passionate recreational athlete and you train 10 hours a week, then you can definitely choose to uh, change the ratio between low intensity work and high intensity work. Then you shouldn't keep it at like 80-20 or even 90-10, what a lot of elite athletes are doing. But then you can definitely choose to do relatively more high intensity work. So again, if you're an elite athlete, I really believe that a lot of low volume work and a few really high intensity sessions can give you a lot of benefit. But when you are a recreational athlete, I would play around with that ratio, to make a little bit more bang for your buck in the amount of hours you have.
Gotcha. And another question I wanted to ask you specifically on this line of thinking is, when people start to build their volumes up, they're often celebrating their running mileage. Whereas I think a few of the top athletes now, I know certainly the top runner in the world, Ingebrigtsen, has started to integrate a lot more cross training. A question that I've always had is, does the cardio engine care what the modality is when thinking about base? Because I know I've got pretty fit on the Airdyne before, and it didn't transfer over to my running. So like, how does that all play in? If you do decide to do some cross training, how does it have to be a similar movement to the movement that you want to become efficient at? That's the question I want to ask.
The one of the first things you learn at exercise physiology is that training is specific. But so if you would keep on going on that regard, you would say like, if you want to become better at running, you should run. And in a certain sense, that's of course true. But I do really, or I'm a really big fan of doing cross training. And the first reason, and especially for HYROX athletes, why I think that's really important is because the load of running is relatively high. And especially for HYROX athletes who carry a little bit of more weight with them compared to an elite runner.
Yeah.
So if you then start to do more ski or row or more bike or even other things, then you can do more aerobic sessions without having the load of the running. So it's more, you the chance of getting injured are of course less. And
Hmm.
what I like to do myself is that I have my general preparation period where I do a lot of aerobic base work, but also in a lot of different modalities.
Gotcha.
And of course, running is still important, but cycling, swimming, skiing, rowing, I do it all. And then in the more specific phase, the total amount of training volume is going a little bit down, but the amount of running is going slightly up.
Gotcha.
And then you can, if you go slightly up, then of course you can see like, okay, how's my body responding to the increased running load?
Hmm.
But at the same time, because your aerobic engine is so strong, that's not a limiting factor anymore. So then the chance is really high that you have a higher recovery ability, and therefore that you can handle that higher load. Where
Yeah.
if you would start doing that from the beginning, where also your aerobic engine is maybe a little bit less,
Yeah.
and your recovery ability is also less, then maybe 2 months before your body wouldn't be able to handle that running volume. So that's the
Gotcha.
first reason I'm a really big fan of it. And then maybe this is coming closer to your question in terms of how effective is it. Of course, again, training is specific. So if it comes as close as possible to running, then it will probably be more effective for running.
Yeah.
Um, so if you if you would choose, okay, I want to become a better runner and I can choose between swimming and cycling, then I of course would take swimming, because then you have some overlap in the muscles you use. But at the same time, if you, maybe I should explain it a different way, because with endurance training, no matter what training you do, your heart and your lungs are getting trained, of course. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you run, bike, or swim. Your lungs and your heart, so your cardiac output, those are improved no matter the modality. But
Engine. Yeah.
but in terms of when you run, you also need like those small capillaries around your muscle, around your lower body muscles. And that's something where cycling can maybe help a little bit with, because like the exact muscle fibers used with running and cycling, there is some overlap, but it's not exactly the same, of course.
Yeah.
So that can help it a little bit. And also with like the oxidative enzymes within the muscle, it can help a little bit, but not exactly. And then when you, of course, talk about like the real stress on the muscles and the tendons and like the exact stress, there cycling cannot help your running performance.
Yeah.
So you would start cycling 10 hours a week and you would do no running at all. And you then suddenly would say, okay, I'm going to run now. What you will probably notice is that your heart is fine, your lungs are fine, and even it's not like that you feel that burning sensation in your muscles, but it's just that like your muscles and your tendons are having so many micro tears that it just starts to hurt because of the micro
Gotcha.
tears, and not because of there's like a problem with like the energy consumption within the
The
muscle.
energy system. Yeah.
So, oh, my neighbors are starting to use the drill, hopefully.
That's
uh,
okay. That's okay.
uh,
But yeah, that's fascinating. It's something I've always thought about. To that level, um, like for years, boxers have ran, right? And that makes sense that stayed on so long, because running is just, it sort of mirrors the impact of boxing, kind of,
yeah,
on the heart rate. The heart's bouncing around, the muscles need to be springy. So I think if we take that sort of metaphor, and then when doing your erg work, not always, but like if you're trying to be more specific to the sport, try and mimic those movements more. So that's really, really helpful, I'm sure, for a lot of people on this. Cool. Different question. Let's move on. Something completely different. This is a two-parter. how did your life look 2 weeks before your first HYROX race in 2022? That's the first part. How do you hope it will look then in the weeks after Stockholm next year? So two-parter, past and future.
Maybe I'm gonna quickly go to a different room because he's
Yeah.
keeping on drilling.
You didn't hear it, but I have twin girls that are 3 years old, and they tried to break into this room about 10 minutes ago. I put myself on mute while you were speaking.
Oh. Yeah, here we are again. So the first one, little correction, my first race was in 2021, but that's not too important. But
there we go.
Well, I knew that race was in October. So I actually just finished my triathlon season because that runs until like September in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And then I was pretty I was like, okay, I want to really give it a shot at this HYROX race. So I kept on training. So in terms of training wise, I just started to decrease the cycling and the swimming part, and I did a little bit of more work in the gym. And my life at the moment, I was still studying back then human movement sciences. So I was combining my weekly triathlon structure with some HYROX workouts with studying back then.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks after Stockholm, I hope I have some downtime where I often in the summer, also after Chicago, I give myself like 2 weeks to do whatever I want to do. But because it's summer and the weather is nice, usually I keep on training, but a lot of running and cycling outside. So 2 weeks after Chicago, I think I will be 3 kilograms heavier than in Stockholm, but still running outside without a t-shirt on and with a smile on my face because I got a podium spot at the elite. So that's how I see myself running after Stockholm.
And what about all the other things around it? Like, obviously, when you start winning, sponsors start coming on board. There's finances associated. There's notoriety associated. Lots of other opportunities. Do you have any ambitions in becoming, like, I guess, a full-time professional, paid? Are you there already? How do you hope that looks for you?
Well, of course, after my last performances, I already start to notice differences in that regard. And at first, I always said, like, even if I come in the elites, I will never stop working. But to be really honest, I start to think about that more and more. And I actually already did started to work a little bit less since the 1st of September, but that's 8 hours a week less. And again, because I really enjoy my job, and it's also weird because my whole study, this was my goal to become like a coach for Olympic athletes. So it would feel really weird to just give that up. But at the same time, I now still have the age and the opportunity to see my potential in this really interesting new sport.
Yeah.
So I'm still a little bit torn about it, but at the other side, I do have to mention that also my job is in some sense also giving me energy. So I think if I would be a full-time athlete without any obligations around it, then I think I would get bored of only doing my training sessions and nothing else. So I will for sure keep doing stuff around it, but I'm noticing that I start to think more and more about how I want to do that in the most optimal way, because now of course I have the confidence that I can be an elite and that I also can fight for podium spots. So that change of course changes things a little bit.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it's fascinating. Obviously, there's some athletes within the sport now that are becoming financially quite well off from the sport. Like, would that be a part of your decision at all? Is like this actually could be a better financial decision for me to just go all in and become a very well sponsored, very high performing professional athlete? For would you remove the finance from the equation and just go, to be honest with you, I just want to be happy. I want to do what it is that makes me happy in the moment. Do you think both those things are sort of need to be discussed like internally?
Yeah, and of course there's always like a balance. So but at the same time, yeah, and what I mean with balance is if the offer is really high, then you would maybe say like, okay, maybe my enjoyment can be a little bit less for some period of time.
That's the
Yeah,
honest
that's
answer.
that's just how it is. Like if I have like because I said I really enjoy my job, but if there's now like a company saying like, okay, we give you this amount of money, but you do have to quit your job. Yeah,
Yeah,
if the money is high enough, then I would I would still say yes. So and that's what I mean. It's always a balance. So you have your offer and the things that you a type of balance that you have in your life. But if the
yeah.
offer changes, then you allow yourself to yeah rethink that balance. But I would like to think myself as a person where the financial aspect is not the most important. Partly because I now already am quite in a financial healthy situation. So it's not something I really need to improve my life in certain aspects.
Yeah,
Um, and at the same time, I also believe for myself, but also for a lot of other athletes, that once your enjoyment is really high, that also gives you the best performances, and good performances are another step to another financial
yeah,
opportunities. So I
yeah.
think if you would choose for like a really big sum of money, but that would cause your enjoyment to go down, then that will be on the short term maybe a logical option, but for the long term, it will actually be maybe not the best decision to be made.
Awesome. I've got two more questions, but I just need to plug my laptop in really quickly
Yeah, sure.
because we're a couple of old chatterboxes. Hidde. So we are there we go. And we'll get that in, and then my anxiety levels can drop by about 90%. Um, yeah, cool. So, without disclosing too much, people are interested. If you get a sponsorship from the likes of Puma, and that I think you have right now, you're sponsored by Puma, are you?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, for sure.
could you quit your job on that sponsorship for the average person?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that I found quite fascinating in the sport to watch, because I'm a business guy, to be honest. I'm a commercial guy. That's how I'm a sales leader. I've been for about 18 years. But one of the things that I find most fascinating is the highest paid athlete in the sport is someone that's struggling to perform right now. So I think with money coming into the sport, a lot of pressure comes on you to perform as well, and a lot of obligations when people start paying you lots of money to perform well. I think that also comes into it too. I even spoke to Alex about this last week, and luckily Alex is pretty hard headed, and he just doesn't care about anything other than just winning. But like he said last year, getting the couple of sponsorships on board from Red Bull and On, which are huge. Um, that he just had so many commitments throughout the year. He was
Yeah.
struggling to be in one place at the same time. So much expectation. So I think there's an element of be careful what you wish for, really, but then there's also the opportunity of a lifetime. Like this is the world's fastest growing sport right now. You could
Yeah.
argue paddle is on the same trajectory globally, but like, and you're one of the top athletes in it. You want to make hay while the sun shines, but there's lots to think about. I find it exciting.
Yeah, and like the offer for an athlete in this sport, I think three things are very important. That's of course your performances, but also yeah, really simple the amount of followers on social media, and third is also your age. So I think those three are really important. So I'm like with age in the middle. I'm not like a 19 or 18-year old, but I'm still I can handle some more years in this sport. And my performances now in the last months are well. But for instance, I'm not that active on social media. Of course, I start doing it more and more. Also, in some ways, I start to like it also even more and more. But I also
Yeah.
start to see the opportunities it brings. So I think those three are very important. And I think if you talk about the money I get, you have athletes who are getting totally different amounts of money. So it's
Yeah.
very different for a lot of athletes. But I
Yeah.
think the 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 subject you also touched upon is the obligations from sponsors. I'm also because I luckily get help. I do have a manager, and she helps me really well with this.
Awesome.
And I also said to her, like, I'm not gonna do activation runs the day or the morning before a race, and I'm not gonna do the. I had a whole list, and I, of course, because I also really enjoy giving workshops, giving this, giving that, but not the day before a race, for instance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that company can maybe uh, also say like, okay, that's a fair point, but then your market value will decrease a little bit because it's really good branding for us around those really big races to do have you in the picture.
Yeah.
But in that case, I see myself more as an athlete and not as like an influencer, and that's always the distinction I try to make for myself.
Yeah.
And I do really know that also an athlete, it's when you have sponsorships, you do have obligations, and that's really important.
Hmm.
But if it would hamper my performances too much, I would rather have a little bit of less money and have the freedom to do what I like to do on the day before a race.
I love it. Okay, we're going to wrap up. So the final part of this podcast is the same three questions. The first question is always from the previous athlete. The question that Alex asked is actually what we've just answered. He said, "How are you balancing work life and professional sport? Do you anticipate a change in the coming months with World Championship qualification?" So he was really referring to you being a coach and being an athlete. Are you going to continue to balance that? Or are you going to go all in prior to World Championship?
Uh, well, like I said, I am looking to balance it out, but I will definitely not quit working in the coming 9 months. So I would still combine it, but maybe again with a couple of less hours, maybe even than right now. I think that
Cool.
will be, and that's also the honest answer because I don't know, to be honest.
That's awesome. Maybe Alex is just trying to get some dirt on you and know who he's up against in the World Championships. I'm
Yeah,
sure he
sure.
was. The next part of this question is you get to ask a question to the next athlete who's Vivian Tafudo. And you can ask them anything. It doesn't have to be HYROX related. What would you like to ask her? It's for continuity from pod to pod.
Oh, that's actually really funny because in Chicago, she and I both became seventh.
Oh, cool.
And now she, of course, had a really good performance in Hamburg. Um,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to ask her: is becoming number seventh in the elite race at the World Championships before brings that good luck for the next race? So I'm curious to hear her thoughts about that.
And the last one before we wrap up, and this podcast is for two people. It's to give you guys a platform and it's to teach everyone how to do better in their own races. So take the median athlete from all HYROX performances who might be doing, let's say, 90 minutes or slightly above. You give them one thing to go away and work on. They can do it for 3 months. It's not an overnight change. And they'll shave 10 minutes off their next race. What would you advise them?
For the median athlete. Ooh, I'm gonna think about this for a minute. And that's also the coach in me because there are so many things. Like I'm now wondering, like how is the training history of this athlete? How many hours a week does he or she train? This that. But let's just say for the median athlete, I think also when we look at the elites, they are running, cycling, strength, this that. But the same as like what we talked about with the ratio of training. Once that goes a little bit down, then you should make it more specific. So my tip would be like, don't look too much at the elites and try to copy that into like in
Condensed version.
a smaller segment. I don't know if that's proper English.
Condensed.
But do a lot of specific work. And I would also say just really look at your strengths and weaknesses and make like one training session out of that, and just try to make little progressions, but really little progressions just every week. Just copy the training sessions, do it every week, but make really small changes. So one week you can say like, okay, I'm going to try to make it 10% longer, so you increase the volume. Or the other week you can say, okay, within the training sessions I do have a couple moments of rest, and in the week after I'm going to try to make that rest 10 seconds shorter, just stuff like that. But I'm a really big fan of just that type of training sessions where you start with something and then you make little progressions over time. And maybe at the moment itself it sometimes feels that you're not going quickly enough, but if you can do that for 3 months straight, so that's like 12 weeks, then you can make really big progression.
1% a day there is almost 100% in 3 months.
Exactly. So even if you could do that twice a week, 1%, then you already have really, really good results.
Yeah, that's awesome. Listen, you've given us, this is the longest podcast I've ever done. So thank you for that. I know you've got about 6 minutes or 5 minutes before you jump onto your next call. So we'll finish up with, where can people find you? What would you like them to reach out to you about? Is there anything online you'd like them to go and read or see, or how can they support you?
To be honest, if you just you can follow me on my Instagram account. It's hidde.w. And I'm always open for any type of questions. So if you want some information about me or some training literature, after this podcast I do have to say that I need to improve my knowledge on coaches. I'm more a principal guy, so when you started with names I was like, shit, I don't know this. So I knew I also have work to do. But you can always shoot me a message, and at this moment I believe I still have answered everybody. It does take a couple of days sometimes.
Wow.
But, I will try to do my best.
Well, listen, all the best. Are you planning to race in the next couple of majors? Are you going to go as far as Australia and the US? You're just going to wait until the Stockholm now?
Yeah, I am going to go for the regional in London and the major in Warsaw. Warsaw. But I'm going to skip Australia and the US purely partly because it takes too many holiday days for my work, but also I just want to train now and have a really good training block in.
That's awesome. Listen, thank you so much for the time. I wish you and your family all the best, and enjoy your training. And that's everything. That's everything for today. Thanks.
Thanks a lot for this conversation.